Welcome to another welcome to another Kogod Connections webinar. My name is Jim Wade, and I am proud to serve as the Director of Alumni Relations here at the Kogod School of Business. It's my pleasure to kick off the program for today. Dean Delaney and I are extremely excited to have an excellent panel of experts in the area of medical and recreational marijuana industries, whom will be introduced shortly. But before doing so, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Please know that this webinar will be recorded for archival, educational, and related promotional purposes. How this will work is that Dean Delaney will have a discussion for approximately 40-45 minutes with our panelists, and then we will open it up to Q&As. I will be the person moderating the Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to type in your questions in the Q&A box, and we will do as many and get through as many as we can with the time remaining. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's webinar, John T. Delaney. John is the Professor of Management and Dean of the Kogod School of Business at American University, a position he has held since 2016. He's widely recognized for his scholarship in negotiation, dispute resolution, and labor management relations, and he's a passionate advocate for experiential-based learning. Prior to coming to Kogod, John served for 9 years as the Dean of the Katz Graduate School of Business and the College of Business Administration at the University of Pittsburgh. With that, I'd like to turn this webinar now over to John for him to introduce our panel, and I'll be back in 45 minutes.
Thank you, Jim. Welcome everyone who's on the call, and it is a great pleasure to welcome and introduce our panelists. This particular discussion is one that was long in coming. I remember talking with one of our panelists, Michael Keller, about doing an in-person discussion several years ago. And we decided at that point in time not to do it out of a variety of concerns about the legality of the situation from a federal perspective. I'm just delighted today that we're in a position where we can have this. So let me introduce the three panelists, and then we'll begin to move forward. I'm going to introduce Michael Keller first because he's the panelist who's a graduate from the Kogod School of Business. Michael right now is a retired financial executive. After graduating from Kogod, he worked in the securities industry for Fannie Mae. He was an associate director at Bear Stearns, a managing director at Sandler, O'Neill and Partners. And he also served as a lobbyist, something that many of our students and alumni have done given their familiarity with Washington. Michael was working on Native American gaming legislation. I'm delighted to see you back again, Michael. Welcome. Thank you for being here. One thing about Michael that has always struck me as interesting is that, you know, some executives play golf as a way to work with people. Michael goes on hikes with people to have conversations about strategy and other issues that are important. That strikes me as a great way to both enjoy the outdoors and to connect with people. So we'll ask some questions in a minute, but thank you for being here, Michael.
My pleasure.
I will now introduce our graduate from American University School of International Service, Tom Grebenstein. Tom has worked in various healthcare fields, from mass immunization and pandemic response to employee wellness and medical devices. Now as the Chief Revenue Officer of Tikun Olam, Tom's career is driven by a passion for healing and protecting those in need by expanding Tikun's reach across the US. If you didn't know already, Tikun is a big player in the medical marijuana field. And a quote that Tom has that I think is reflective of him as a person and his perspective: as both a multiple qualified patient and the parent of a disabled child, I understand how difficult and personal the hunt for effective medicine can be. At Tikun, we're able to simplify that process through research, provide relief, and renew the patients to their fullest lives. So welcome, Tom. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Really excited about it.
And then now I'd like to introduce Graham Ferrar. Graham is the co-founder, president, and chief cannabis officer of Glasshouse Brands, one of the most rapidly growing, vertically integrated public cannabis companies in the United States, focusing solely on the California market. Graham is a serial entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience. He's been a pioneer in the tech space, serving at software.com, Sonos, and Seecology, which is a nonprofit focused on protecting island habitats and assisting local communities. He has proudly served as a board member of the Santa Barbara Bowl Foundation for 13 years. That allows him to leverage his passion for music, community, and business. Graham attended the University of Colorado at Boulder, and he thrives on a highly active life, which includes 2 multi-year sailboat adventures, piloting, and mountain biking, along with spending quality family time with his wife and 2 children. And I will bet that Graham and Michael have had a variety of conversations on the hiking trail. Now,
Michael's background and my hat don't match by accident. Thanks a lot for having us. You can be my publicist anytime. You make me sound pretty awesome when you say it like that.
Well, thank you for being here today, Graham. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the webinar. Before I begin the questions, though, there's an interesting American University connection to the cannabis industry that I only learned about after we advertised the webinar. An alumna connected and told me that the late legendary Arnold Trebach, an American University professor for many years, was considered to be the modern day father of the marijuana and drug policy reform movement. That his work in Washington and on Capitol Hill inspired changes in legislation that led to the opportunity to have an industry like this and a discussion like this. And it also led many of his students to become involved in the cannabis industry. So it is a delight to share that, that AU has a connection as we start the webinar. Now, I'm going to start with questions to 2 of our American University alumni. Sorry, Graham, but I'm going to hold this one out for you because we always ask the same question, and it's going to be to Michael and Tom. If you can just tell 2 quick things about your college experience at AU. You know, why'd you go to AU? What got you there? What did you like about it? Just something special. And when you were there, did you ever think you'd be in this particular position in industry today? So Michael first and then Tom.
Well, to begin with, I wasn't a terrific student in high school. My sister had attended AU. I visited her and I was like, this is a cool place. I had a lot of fun. Today, I could not get into AU. Back then, the standards weren't, and they had a special program for people like myself who were challenged, and I came early, and so it was really the best school I could get into was the reason. I proceeded to not do, like I did fine my freshman year, played some baseball, and then they kindly, I was a history major, they kindly asked me to leave because I wasn't going to class, whatever, I messed up, and it turned out it was a pretty scary time. It was good thing for me. One of the best thing ever happened to me. I came back, I got a job working full-time for the university as a library accountant, paid for my school myself. And, you know, that for me, it was one of the best, you know, comeback kid kind of stories. So, and as far as like thinking that I'd be retired at this age and involved in cannabis, not a chance. I would never, I always felt like I was going to do something. I thought I'd be successful, but the key decision that like, first of all, I think I'm speaking mainly to the audience. If you're I don't know if you're undergrad or graduate students, just don't get stuck in one thing that you want to do, because you just never know how things will go. Interest rates were, I came back as a Kogod business major, real estate and urban developments. Interest rates were almost 20%, no jobs in real estate whatsoever. I did nothing for a year other than like sold encyclopedia, whatever I could do just to pay the rent. And I got 2 job offers, one from Keller Brothers, which was a home builder in Montgomery County, and the other one was Fannie Mae. And I went to my business law professor, Don Brenner, who was my favorite professor by far. And I said, what do you think I should do, Doc? And he goes, well, Keller Brothers is new and Fannie Mae, it's a lot safer. Little did I know that Fannie Mae was a finance job. I thought it was real. I had no clue. So, and that just led me down a whole path that I had no, like, oh, so I'm going into finance now. I wound up on Wall Street because that was a logical thing to do. So anyway, it's just follow what comes to you, make the best of whatever it is. But yeah, anyway.
Thank you, Michael. Tom.
Well, I would say that I absolutely never thought I would end up working in the cannabis industry, because what had attracted me to American initially was that it was a feeder school to the alphabet agencies. So as a graduate of SIS, it certainly would have been plausible to me and for me to end up with a career at DEA or any one of the other DC focused, alphabet agencies. And obviously I ended up a little bit at the other end of the spectrum there. And I did spend my semester abroad in AU down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at the suggestion of kind of another American legend, Jack Child, who was my advisor and a very dear man. But my career towards alphabet agencies got a little bit derailed when I had bet all my education on the Southern Cone, and I graduated 3 weeks before September 11th. So they were more interested in folks with a Middle Eastern focus than they were with guys who knew a lot about the Peronist governments of Argentina and whatnot. So.
Thank you, Tom. And now I've got a question that I'm going to go first to Graham and then back to Tom. In the introduction, I gave a little bit of information on your companies. And this question is more, and I'll start again with Graham. What can you tell us more about what the company does, what you do on a daily basis, how things are moving along, and what makes you excited about being in your position today?
Sure. So maybe I'll start with kind of the philosophy that is behind Glasshouse, right? So we believe that the world is better with cannabis in it. And so our goal is to bring more cannabis to more people, do it eventually at a national scale, and do it efficiently, that it's affordable and accessible to everybody, right? So that's kind of the underpinning foundation on it. What Glasshouse is today is we're one of the, or if not the largest in California. We have currently 500,000 square feet of licensed and operational cannabis greenhouses. You can see one of them behind me there. At 500,000 square feet, I think we're probably the largest greenhouse grower of cannabis in California. We are a fully vertically integrated company, which means that we have the cultivation, we have manufacturing, we make brands. The Glasshouse Farms brand is the #1 flower brand in the state of California. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, but it's also the largest cannabis market on the planet. So, and it's an open and free competitive market. So being #1 in California actually means something, because there's 1,900 other brands that are out there nipping at your heels, and some of the other more limited license states. Being #1 just means you're better than 3 other folks. So California is a pretty special market from that point of view. We have 4 retail stores open today: Santa Barbara, Berkeley, Los Angeles, Santa Ana, and we've got 4 more stores in the works. So before this year's over, we will have at least doubled our retail footprint. And we just went public about 9 months ago now. You go public in cannabis if you're a US company on the Canadian exchanges, because you can't go public in the US now. a Canadian company in cannabis can go public in the US. So if anyone can solve that riddle for me, I'll take them to lunch. But so we went public via SPAC, which is it's a vehicle for going public. Basically, you raise the money before the IPO and then do a reverse takeover over it. So we raised what ended up being the third largest equity raise in US cannabis last year at about $140 million. And the reason we did that is because we had a unicorn of a greenhouse that we wanted to purchase. It is the second largest greenhouse in the United States at 125 acres, or in cannabis, we use square feet because we're still small for agriculture. So it's 5.5 million square feet. So shortly, when we put the first license on it, it will become the largest licensed cannabis greenhouse on planet Earth. And it was $100 and something million in cash with another 100 million in equity. So the IPO is really to allow us to purchase that asset, which we believe in California, we've got the best climate, the best facility, an amazing team. So we can grow the highest quality at the lowest cost and do it from a state where people pay a premium for, which is California. Kind of like you don't have a favorite non-Mexican tequila brand. Most people pay a premium for Cuban cigars, even though you can get a cigar from anywhere. We think cannabis comes from California, and most of the brands of the future will have started here. So our plan is to dominate in California. Then we do think the walls will come down and we'll have interstate commerce, and we'll sell those brands and put them on shelves across the country and eventually probably across the planet.
Thanks, Graham. And we'll come back to some of that branding and marketing a little bit later, because that is an interesting part of this. I'd like to go to Tom, though, because it's the same cannabis plant. You're on the other side of the industry, and maybe you can tell us what excites you and what you're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. We were one of the first organized organizations in the world to be licensed to provide medical cannabis out of Israel. So our founder, Saki Cohen, at the time was treating about 3,000 patients illegally by himself prior to any sort of licensure in Israel. He decided to create a social movement, something that's kind of very near to the AU message. It became untenable for him to care for all those folks, so he rented buses and bus these patients down to the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, and staged a sit-in until the Knesset was willing to take up the issue of cannabis legalization. And they did, and they issued just a couple of research licenses at that point, which also allowed us to treat patients. That gained the attention of a gentleman named Raphael Meshulam. He discovered THC in 1964. So he kind of took our founder under his wing, and they started focusing on doing real pharmaceutical style clinical trials on individual genetics focused on abating specific symptoms of specific conditions. And it was really, Israel was very much open to that, but it was still a very, very restricted market. But over that time, we published over 20 clinical studies dealing with everything from autism, Crohn's disease, palliative cancer care, et cetera. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I tour the country, I search out other licensed providers that are already growing in the United States that are ethically aligned, that'll be good custodians of our message and of our genetics. And then we license this intellectual property and genetic profile to them. And then my job is not only to hunt them out and find them, but to hold their hand all the way from the first seeds through go to market and creating a thriving business. So currently we are partnered with 11 grows across 9 states. And then we do have a joint venture in Adelanto, California that we own a portion of. It's about 100,000 square foot of canopy to produce for the Southern California market.
Thanks. And, with those two introductions, it leads to the next question, which is, if you talk about marijuana or cannabis, it tends to evoke really strong opinions in people, from very negative to very positive. How do you manage a business in a climate where you've got people who love you and people who take pot shots at you all the time? And how do you move things forward? Because even now it wasn't mentioned, but there clearly is an issue with regard to banking in the industry that is creating some concern. So I wonder maybe, Michael, because you're sort of you're not directly affiliated with the companies. You might start with this, and then I'd like to go to Graham and Tom to get a perspective on how this industry is going to evolve given the feelings and the regulatory environment.
Yeah, I think Tom and Graham will have a better opinion, but from an investment standpoint, to me, it was an opportunity. I, like many people, like to invest when there's a dislocation of capital. It's very hard to raise money in cannabis. Happened during the credit crisis. I made some great investments then in public. It was legal. That was a layup. And my banking was more my thing anyway. So anytime anything like where capital was dear, those generally are good places to at least be looking. Didn't bother me much. I feel as though it's changed quite a bit, and it's, as far as operating, it gave us a head start before everybody else is involved. But so that's my take. I'd rather hear what the smart guys have to say, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. And I'm going to frame it, one more frame on this for Graham and Tom. It's going to be, Tom will be on the love side of the industry because it's medical, and Graham is on the hate side of the industry because it's recreational. And I don't mean it as my view as much as I think that's probably the way people see it, and love to get your perspective on this because you're living this evolution each day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's so amazing about cannabis is it's one and the same, right? Like Tom and I may have slightly different perspectives, but we're both in love with the same plant. I mean, cannabis is literally, it's medicine so good that most people take it just for the side effects, right? Like that's, if you think about it from that spectrum, nothing's good for everybody. Anyone can have a problem with anything, but it's pretty hard to find stuff that is less toxic, less damaging, less ripe for abuse than cannabis, right? The only problem with cannabis is that the federal government has made it a problem, right? And I think one of the things that I believe is things should be illegal because they're wrong, not wrong because they're illegal. And this is a case where we have made something wrong by creating the problem, right? It is not inherent within it. Cannabis has been used by people for 6,000 years. It's been illegal for 1% of them. The natural state of a plant is not to be illegal. And I think, I personally believe that cannabis makes the world a better place. And I believe that the truth always happens. And to steal a line from Martin Luther King Jr., that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So I think it's just the path, right? And one of the things I try and distinguish between is the intensity of someone's view, positive or negative, and how many people hold that view, right? So with cannabis, I think what you see is there are a small amount of very loud opponents. That doesn't mean that a lot of people don't like it. It means that there are a few people are over here screaming their heads off about it, right? And the honest truth is the biggest indicator of where someone's view is going to be on cannabis is their age, and demographics are a one-way change, right? And that the way that new ideas sometimes come about as time passes, and the people who grew up and steeped in the old dare, just say no, good people don't use cannabis, they kind of naturally fall away. And now you've got a generation, my kids, I've got a 12-year-old and an almost 16-year-old, they view cannabis very much like alcohol. And if anything, they probably view it as less harmful for alcohol, which I think is accurate, right? So neither one is for them, but as opposed to the just say no, like there's no discussion, right? People don't say that about alcohol. You don't say just say no to alcohol, you say not till you're 21, right? And we should have the same views on cannabis, I think. Then with the added nuance of there's lots of reasons someone under 21, seizures, Parkinson's, MS, cancer, sleep, anxiety, like all these things, we have just the first scratch because, again, we've made something wrong by making it illegal. So we don't have all the research that we should have. We have lots of anecdotal information. We need to dive in. We need to figure out what's true and what's not. It won't be all one or the other. And then we need to integrate cannabis into our lives in healthy ways. And like I said, I think the truth always happens. So it's just a matter of time, I think, until we get views almost all the way over on the right side of the camp.
Tom, how about your side?
I mean, I completely agree with Graham. I mean, I think that all cannabis is health related, whether that's as a tool for your own mental health, whether it's a self-care issue, or whether you're focusing on a very narrow set of symptoms. it's there to help the body, and I feel very adamantly about that. And in reference to those who feel differently or are very vocal, this is going to sound a little bit more flip than I want it to be, but honestly, I just don't waste my time with it. There are enough people who need to be helped, who need direction. I can spend that time, instead of trying to change somebody's mind, I can be with the parents of a nonverbal child who's using cannabis to gain a 50 or 75 word vocabulary. I could be counseling somebody who's trying to overcome opioid use disorder. So it doesn't really become a factor in my life, even listening to them.
Well, it's interesting because each of you have really just said the same thing. And that in some ways, the medical benefits that, Tom, you're talking about, and the advantages for many people, and that cannabis might be much less harmful in some ways than other types of prescriptions that would be given to people. And does that mean that people shouldn't be able to have it for recreational purposes, which I think Graham's point was very well expressed about, prohibit things that are wrong, don't, make things prohibited because you don't like it. That I want to go one step further about your industry, though, because it was one thing that was really interesting to me as I did some research in preparation for this. I've been amazed at the amount of innovation that's taking place in the cannabis industry. And I wondered if each of you could talk a little bit about that. Because it's everything from when we did our prep call, say to the audience, I asked Graham, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Graham, do you have those little pink hearts that would actually be the kind that we used to all get as kids that someone might be able to buy that would have, THC in them? So what about the innovation in the business? I'll go to Graham and then to Tom.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think cannabis is it's so new and it's so nascent, but yet so old at the same time, right? I mean, we're literally talking about a plant, as I mentioned, that we've seen, thousands and thousands of years of history of use, but now we're bringing it from under the table, out of the shadows and into the lights, where it used to be people's energy was primarily focused on hiding, right? It was being covert because the mere existence of this plant could get you in trouble. As you take that away, you're seeing a tremendous amount of energy be redirected across the spectrum, right? So like we do a lot in cultivation. I think growing in greenhouses is the best, most efficient, most ecologically sound, the way that the plant evolved, best business, right? And that's our perspective, all the things we do in greenhouse. You couldn't have even a 10-acre greenhouse in cannabis 25 years ago, right? I mean, there's 25-year cannabis growers and 25-year greenhouse growers, or 25-year cannabis growers in prison. Right. So like that ability to shift from hiding to efficiency, which is great because we like to think of it as a triple bottom line. It's good for the planet, good for our customers, employees, and it's good for the business. Greenhouses are great to check all three of those boxes. And now that's where we can put our energy. And then on the product side, we have dispensaries that have 600, 700 SKUs, 600, 700 totally different products, right? You think about the beginning of cannabis, it was 2 buds in a Ziploc, right? Like now we have, this is a brand we just bought called, it's not going to work, Plus Gummies, which has all kinds of cannabinoid ratios in it. They're nano emulsified for quick onset. They're non-emulsified for long-term duration to help you sleep and things like that. So just that experimentation, beverages, creams, topicals, it's like to see all of these product categories explode. I think I sometimes say anybody who thinks they don't like cannabis just doesn't know how they like it yet. Right. And that may mean totally non-psychoactive. It may be a THC bath bomb that makes their joints feel better after a golf game or whatever. Right. But there's really something for everything in this plant. And as we move forward, we get more and more opportunities to help people find how this plant can make their lives happier.
Yeah, I completely agree. I look at, I operate predominantly outside of the California market, but as we look at every other market that evolves, they're essentially an accelerated microcosm of California, right? Whereas instead of the market evolving over 20 years, it's evolving over 20 months. So we do see a lot of, therefore, the benefit of the innovation and things like organic farming practices, pest management using entomology, and even complex extraction methodologies that evolved out of California that we've been able to bring into other markets and evolve them. But also this kind of variation in regulation across the US, where you're essentially dealing with 56 individual sets of regulations or 56 individual markets, has really created some interesting innovation in states where certain extraction or production methodologies are not permitted. So we have to get creative in order to try to achieve a modicum of the quality that's available in a more mature market. For example, here in Florida, butane extraction was illegal until just the middle of last year. So we had to get really advanced with taking an older technology like ethanol extraction or a more esoteric technology like solventless extraction and try to manipulate those in such a way to get to what guys are seeing on Instagram coming out of California and Colorado. So, it's still the necessity issue, right? When you're not allowed to use pesticides, you have to evolve better organic and more sustainable farming practices. When you're not allowed to use ethanol, find a better way to try and get to the same thing.
Let me follow up with just a quick question, because I do tend to agree with the necessity is the mother of invention idea. Is it the medical side here that's helping to drive the innovation, or is it the recreational side that's driving the innovation? Because again, as you think about it, Graham, you talked about sustainability. There are some people who might be pro-cannabis, but I'll never smoke because it's bad to smoke and to take things into your lungs. Well, you've got a product that gets at that. What is it? Is it one side driving this innovation, or do you both benefit from being in an industry that has both a recreational and a health side?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm curious what Tom has more perspective on the medical than I do, but to me, from what I read and what I observe firsthand, they're very much in parallel and synergistic. I think the recreational market is significantly bigger today, at least like in California where we operate. But I think that's because the medical market in some ways has been held back even more, right? Like it's one thing where individuals said, I'm going to flout the laws and et cetera, and just do it because I don't think there's a problem with it, right? I'm not going to follow what I believe is an unjust law. Medical folks are typically, federally funded and grants and hospitals and universities and things like that, a lot harder for them to do it. But everything that you see coming reinforces the one, right? I mean, I think now that we have the grand experience, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, California, right? I don't know what that is, 60 million people now with decades of combined federal, legal, recreationally legal cannabis. And every horror story that you heard was going to happen. Teen usage hasn't gone up, car crashes hasn't gone up, opiate deaths go down, medical schedule D spending goes down, right? So you have this, collective building set of evidence that the side effects appear to be minimal to non-existent, which further paves the way for the medical research and all the anecdotal stuff that comes out of that. So I think they help each other and advance, each other arm in arm.
I think that the differentiation would be the ultimate goal of innovation and new product creation. I think on the adult use side, that's very much towards catering to a wider audience, towards getting to something new, especially on the genetics side, evolving with market tastes. It used to be for a little while, for example, you couldn't sell green cannabis in California, it had to be purple, so that's very much on their side. On ours, it's we're more focused on normalizing and creating more consistency among the product offerings, because we are dealing with an agricultural product, so that we have a consistent outcome for the patient every time they consume it for a specific symptom. That being said, it's not that there's not room for some playfulness in what we do. For example, leaning on the Israeli heritage of Tikun, this year we're looking to launch cannabis infused honey sticks, specifically for breaking fast at Passover. and whatnot, or if we're breaking fast. So, I mean, it really, we're all working towards new things, just in slightly different directions.
Yeah, and one example, I don't know, I'll try and see if people can see that. So this is a brand that we own now. It's the fourth largest edible brand in California. And one of the things that they've done is I'd call it kind of a functional brand. So it bridges the line a little bit between recreational and medical. So this, for example, has a 9-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. So very low amounts of THC, high amounts of CBD. And to Tom's point, because it's a regulated product, unlike the old days of edibles, where you don't know if you're supposed to eat the corner of the brownie or the whole thing, this is labeled down to the milligram. Every single batch is tested, has to be before it goes on the shelf. And so the result of that is you're able to titrate very effectively. Like if you figure out that 2 of these cubes is the right dose for you, you can do that repeatedly every time. And that's a function of and a benefit of the regulatory market versus a prohibition market, right? In prohibition, nothing's tested, nothing's labeled. In a regulatory market, you get all that information, right? Like the rest of the foods that you put in your body for the most part. So I think that takes people a step along the way from, what is adult use recreational, what is medical. I've got lots of friends who take these gummies to help them sleep at night instead of what was pharmaceuticals. And if everybody doesn't know it, pharmaceutical drugs kill orders of magnitude more people than illicit drugs. So if you think about where the danger is from a statistical and data point of view, it's not this, it's what's in your medicine chest. And so the less things you can have in your medicine chest, and the more products like this coming from a plant to help you live a healthy life, the better we all are.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought those up as well, Graham, because I always think of there's kind of this dichotomy of perception in the market where the more mature a market gets, the more they start to lean on super ratio products and microdosing than on high THC, right? People start to learn what they're actually doing for their body out of these products. So, you walk into a newly minted legal market on the AU side, say like Massachusetts, everybody's just going to be saying, I want high THC, high THC, high THC. You get a more mature market like California, and they start to realize, wow, these minor cannabinoids are making my body feel a hell of a lot better than THC is. And I need more control out of how and when to dose them.
Yeah. The nuance. I mean, if you think about alcohol, if someone said, what's your favorite wine or beer? Would you ever say the one with the most alcohol by volume? Of course not, right? Like that's not what you're looking for. And I think my theory has always been that the potency drive was a derivative of the risk associated with a prohibition. If you're going to have, a trunk full of product that you're taking somewhere, you want that product to be as concentrated as possible because you're taking a risk. When you take the risk away, you can get into the nuance of things, which is not like if beer was as strong as tequila, I'd think that would be a bummer. That's a bug, not a feature, right? I don't want this much beer. I want this much beer and maybe even a couple, right? And so the idea that everyone always wants Everclear, just like that's not what many of us drink, I think eventually people will not be smoking the Everclear equivalent of cannabis.
Yeah, Graham, you brought up the regulatory issue, and I'd like to get some perspective on that too, because one of the interesting aspects of your industry is that the regulations vary tremendously across states. So there isn't necessarily a single regulatory hurdle that you have to cross, especially if you're looking towards, eventual having a national market. How do you manage in a regulatory environment that's that disparate? And this will be one that Michael might be able to comment on as well, given his exposure in the past with lobbying and with different types of government bodies, because this is a real challenge in the industry that you've got to meet these different expectations across states.
Yeah, so one thing on that is right now, interstate commerce is not currently permitted. So that's somewhat down the road that we'll have then multiple markets. But already we have what you're speaking to, which is there's municipal regulations, There's state regulations, there's federal regulations. Right now, federal regulations are still, have their head stuck in the sand, calling cannabis Schedule 1, which means it has no known medical benefit and a high potential for abuse. Basically the opposite of what it actually is. But eventually that will come. And I think, it is a challenge. And one of the things I like to remind people of is regulations are good. Overregulation is bad, right? I mean, part of the benefit of going from prohibition to a regulatory market is things like we were talking about, testing of products, standardized labeling, knowing what the dosage is. Those all come from regulation. So that, there's good pieces to that. It's the overregulation and what often goes along with it, which is overtaxation, that we got to watch out for, because if you overregulate, overtax, and underenforce, you're basically just keeping the illicit market around. And that's what we're trying to get rid of and move to a licensed regulatory framework that's beneficial for everyone, provides them a safe and tested product that they can access, ubiquitously. Like that's the goal. So that's where we need to be. We got to find that midpoint in the pendulum on the spectrum that you achieve what you want without stopping what you don't.
Graham, I think I feel like you kind of dug into my pre-call notes here, man.
Good to know we're on the same page.
No, I mean, I look at regulation also as having 3 tiers, but kind of a little bit different and in diminishing returns as I go down them. So we've got product regulations, keeping people safe, informing them what's in it, allowing folks to explore things like terpene profiles that may be better for them or more therapeutic. Then we get into the production regulations, which are very good for, regulating sustainable farming practices, avoiding diversion into the gray and black markets and whatnot. But then you get into some of the just kind of absurdity of state or production regulations. Like, for example, recently the government of Florida decided that there was no branding on packaging anymore. Everything has to be white with black lettering and look like it came out of a Soviet grocery store.
Yeah.
Okay. So we ended up throwing out millions of units of packaging to environmental impact. For what reason, right? And then you get down to the financial regulation, and the financial regulation end of it is, I think we can all say, really just not only a stumbling block, but is what makes a certain segment of the industry dangerous, because we're moving around huge amounts of cash and we're not being, the taxes that are just are not being applied appropriately. And, it really creates a very difficult business environment for us.
I'd like to get Michael's perspective on this too, because from the side of legislators, they may be hearing from different groups of people with really strong views, as we've said, on each side of this. But the environment is one that is creating both challenges and opportunities. I don't know if you've got any perspective, Mike, that you want to add.
I don't know. Politics have changed. Government's changed so much from when I was really focused on it. I think both Tom and Graham covered, really the main issues. I just look in California. Everything they're doing is designed to kind of kill our industry, overtaxing it, not enforcing, illegal grow. It's just terrible. So when I think about regulations, not so much these laws are getting passed, everything is so politicized. I don't even want to get into it, because then I'm going to start talking about our president and some of the non-things he's done. That's not productive. But I think, some kind of framework like we're with cigarettes, tobacco and alcohol would be very beneficial to us. What that's going to take, it's going to take first some kind of clumsy legislation coming out from, that gets passed, that at least lets money come into the industry, so you can have a bank account. I think take out a loan legally, have investors legally, and not jump to Canada, for whatever nonsensical reason that is. So, yeah, I think they've covered it pretty well.
Thanks, Michael. At the Kogod School of Business, we really love to talk about the future of business. And I'd enjoy hearing from Graham and Tom about what they see as the future of this industry going forward. Can you even envision a day when maybe the medical side and recreational side come together in individual businesses. What's the future like? We've got people on the call thinking about, should I invest in this business? Is this going to be positive or should I stay out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that we'll see, and one of the things that's interesting for about cannabis, right, is like there's legitimate interest from pharmaceutical, alcohol. You could see tobacco. You could see vitamins and nutraceuticals, right? Like all of those industries, which are very big, multi-billion to trillion-dollar industries, have a legitimate interest in this, right? And many of them a legitimate fear, right, of that this is going to steal their market share. And so if I'm not participating here, I'm net losing. How do I be on both sides? So it will be interesting to see it. If I was making crystal ball predictions, my crystal ball made out of salt, I think alcohol probably is the one that's the furthest along and will be most involved. I do think that you're going to see kind of the adult use side and the medical side. My guess is that you're not going to see people being prescribed joints in a hospital, right? And so at some level there's going to have to be high dose, very pure, you're going to have to be to pharmaceutical standards at some level. But I think they'll both happen, right? I think we will see treatments that are in the hospital, regulated, produced in a lab, maybe even fermented or maybe extracted from the plant, that will be their own lane and category. And at the same time, you're going to see people with their plus gummies and their joints and their flour and their chocolates and their bath bombs and all the other pieces there on a vitamin style alcohol style approach. So I think it's the challenge with cannabis is that there's so many things that are interesting right now to pick and to focus is the hard part, not finding the opportunity, because everywhere you look, there's one of those.
I agree. I also think that, as you're talking about, the normalization of molecules, especially acid state molecules, will be really important when you're looking towards, those more focused therapies in the future, but while still trying to maintain, a complete cannabinoid profile. The other thing that I think is really from a business perspective is essential is each market, and we see it accelerate as each market comes online, they go through this initial kind of set where there's a mom and pop type atmosphere where you're dependent on your local grower, your locally licensed individuals, often starting from a caregiver market. Shortly after that, you swing through commoditization, which is just bulk THC, and everybody just wants the most, the highest, et cetera. And then you hit maturity, and at maturity is when not only does product diversity, but branding become so important. And that's when the brands that have real brand story, real ethos, real ethical standpoints behind them will either survive or fail. And we've started to see a little bit of that consolidation in the more mature markets, but I think it's really coming. We're starting to see, I think the bellwether of that is some of these more prevalent celebrity focused brands and whatnot, which kind of is the jump the shark phase for branding. And I think we'll start to see those brand stories become really more essential over the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, from an investment standpoint, I would say anyone who's looking to buy and invest, focus on management. Spend a lot of time on who are these people running these places, what they've done so far, what's their experience, where they're heading, are they executing on what they said that they're going to do? Because there's a lot of people that aren't. They're just not. So, and that's a big, for me anyway, a big way to differentiate. They may not have the perfect brand today, but if you have good management, they're going to get there. And so it's
like the jockey, not the horse.
Yeah, exactly.
I see that Jim is back on the call, and I wonder, Jim, if you've got some questions from the audience that they'd like to hear the panel address.
Sure, we have a lot of great questions, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to all of them in the remaining 9 minutes. So I promise to those of you who wrote questions that I will forward those questions on to our panelists for their thoughts and get back to you on some of them specifically. But the one theme that's coming out in these questions is, as people are looking to get into this industry, what advice you would have, how did you get financing, what is some of the suggestions and recommendations you might have for doing that? And what do you think is going to happen post-legislation? Let's say the U.S. does open this market up to begin nationwide, and how does Canada have the advantage over the United States in terms of, they've already hit the ground running with a lot of things. That's a lot of questions in one question.
Yeah, that's something to unpack there. I can start with a couple of them maybe. So banking in cannabis is a challenge. Many operators have no banking, which is bad public policy. It's unsafe and deters paying taxes and all kinds of things. So there's really no reason that we should be in this state. Representative Perlmutter from Colorado has been relentless about trying to get with a safe banking, is the name of the bill, passed, which would basically open up the door for banks to not have to worry about getting in trouble by banking cannabis businesses. We and some of the other larger operators have banking. We bank with a large, publicly traded, regular old FDIC bank, but that took a lot of work and relationship building and site visits and all kinds of hoops. Which is another reason safe banking, I think, is important from a social justice point of view. Is it's filtering for the big players and making it harder for the new and smaller upstarts, right? And that playing field should be level. Being able to get a bank account should not be something that gives you a competitive advantage in a free and open market. So I think that's important. We also recently borrowed money. We borrowed $100 million, which is pretty rare in cannabis, and did that because we are an established company that had hundreds of millions of dollars of fully owned and unencumbered real estate. But it's important to note that having a bank account is not being banked, right? Having a bank account is the bare minimum, step one. Cannabis is still no credit cards, no working capital loans, credit lines. All the things that would be normal in any other industry are very challenging and have a lot of friction in cannabis. So we are definitely very underbanked at this point. I saw in the question there, AFC Gamma is definitely as a lender who's out there. IIPR is a REIT lender who's NASDAQ, I believe NASDAQ listed, a US listed exchange. And it's interesting because they're buying property and then leasing it out to cannabis operators. So they've kind of done a little loophole around the regulatory stuff. But all of that is just really inefficient. It's friction. It's people working around a problem that shouldn't be a problem because of our regulatory and silly federal laws. And what the result is, it's more expensive for the consumer, harder for the businesses, less people getting the medicine that they need. So those are all things that we need to fix and as quick as we can.
I mean, to follow up on that same theme, I mean, the piece of advice and also the comment on that are kind of coupled together. If you're interested in getting invested or involved in the industry, be prepared for chaos. There's no 2 days alike. The gray areas of legislation, the volatility of the capital markets. I mean, a single news story can cause capital market collapses or hard money to walk away. I mean, and cash that might cost you 7 points today could easily be 15 points next week because somebody said something to the capital markets folks and everything falls off. And look at the way that our cannabis-backed stocks have been over the last 13 months. It's not been a pleasant environment, but that's part of an emerging market. So just again, be prepared for chaos because your plan at 9 a.m. is not going to be the same plan you've got at 7 p.m. on any given day.
Yeah, the world's changing very quick. When I first got involved in this, it's 2016. And some of those hikes we're talking about, we're like, how do we deal with this criminal that is used to spending his whole life not paying taxes and avoiding, they wanted nothing to do with being a corporate. Now it's better, but like Tom said, it's going to be like this. So good management is probably good focus. But yeah.
There's a question. There's a question about like internship opportunities with your companies and opportunities for employment. A lot of students are on this call and they're curious about that. And also, Graham, a specific question I'll ask you too, and that's about M&A opportunities. How do you basically evaluate them and make those?
Sure. So to go in reverse order, we have an internship program. If it's something interesting to people, we could talk more about that. We are only in California, so just so people know, they'd have to be here to take advantage of that. But we did that with some local schools and it was really fun and actually hired a few people out of it. So I think opportunities for employment in cannabis are awesome. And one of the reasons for that is it typically filters a lot of people out. So somebody, to put it bluntly, who might be a B or C+ player in another industry has the opportunity to be a B+ or A player in cannabis because a lot of the other folks aren't here yet, right? So if you're a software developer, or a marketer, or a graphic designer, you can be a bigger fish in a smaller pond in cannabis. And eventually when the world catches up, if you're good and cannabis experience, it's going to put you in a very small list of people who have both of those things, which creates an opportunity for the individual. On M&A, I mean, we really, I think a little bit of what Michael said there, right? We're looking for the operators. It's always a build versus buy decision for us. So we are vertically integrated. So different criteria for cultivation, for buying a brand, for buying a store, et cetera, kind of stuff. But really what we're looking for is things that are accretive to our business and our shareholders. So places where we can get good top line revenue with EBITDA margin and ideally free cash flow. And then for synergies, so for example, we have products that we sell in our stores. Our stores do 10 to 15 times better than a third party store. So for us, buying a break even retail store, as long as it's truly break even after paying all the taxes and everything, can be a good synergy because it will leverage our CPG sales through those shelves now. And then when 280E and safe banking and all those things happen, there's incremental upside. So we're always looking at how can we leverage the platform and make smart decisions with good teams of people.
At Sandler, when we did all of the mutual savings, IPOs, and a tremendous amount of mergers. You'd want to leave. We would always advise to leave some meat on the bone, and that's kind of what Graham's talking about. Something where you're able to create something out of it. Like they're not, but in our system, they're going to be more efficient and make more money than if they are standalone. So anyway, it applies in all businesses, I think.
I would just say we do not have an internship program. We're actually a relatively small US organization. However, one of the pieces of advice I would give is we do hire a lot of recent grads through the Venture for America program, which is certainly a way for folks to try and get involved in the industry, as they do work with several dozen, I believe, cannabis companies.
To all of those people who asked questions, I apologize that we're not going to be able to get to all of them since we're limited here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. What I do promise to you is that I will do my best to try to direct these questions to the appropriate panelist and get back to you with an answer here in the next day or two. Dean Delaney, do you want to have any final comments here?
I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Graham, Tom, and Michael for being here today. This has been really an interesting and educational discussion about an industry that is growing and I think is incredibly innovative. So we appreciate your time and we'll look forward, hopefully, to being in touch in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. We will be back with another webinar next month, so stay tuned for that. We'll announce that here in the next week or so. Everyone, have a great rest of your Valentine's Day, and take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.